The envelope was cream-colored, thick, expensive. The kind of stationery you only used for important correspondence. On the front, in Diana's elegant handwriting, Her Majesty the Queen, private and confidential, to be opened by addressee only. It arrived at Buckingham Palace on December 18, 1992. A footman carried it on a silver tray to the Queen's private study, where Elizabeth II sat reviewing the day's official documents. She saw Diana's handwriting and her expression tightened. Another letter, another plea for help, another emotional outburst from her daughter-in-law. The Queen had received dozens of letters from Diana over the years. Some were formal, thank you notes for gifts, confirmations of official duties. Others were more personal, requests for advice, expressions of frustration, occasionally accusations wrapped in polite language. But this letter felt different. The Queen could sense it somehow. The weight of the envelope, the careful handwriting, the formal address. Diana was saying something important, something that couldn't be said face to face. Elizabeth opened the envelope carefully. Inside were 5 pages, handwritten, dated the previous evening. The Queen began to read. Your Majesty, I'm writing this letter because I can't say these things to your face. You're my queen, my mother-in-law, the woman I curtsy to every time we meet. The hierarchy between us makes honest conversation impossible, so I'm writing instead. I need you to read these words without interrupting, without making excuses, without protecting your son. I need you to know that I know about Charles and Camilla, about how long it's been going on, about how you've known from the beginning and done nothing to stop it. The Queen set down the letter, her hands trembling slightly. She picked up her reading glasses, poured herself a cup of tea from the pot her lady-in-waiting had left earlier, and continued reading. I married your son 11 years ago. I was 19 years old, a virgin, a kindergarten teacher. I knew nothing about royal life, about protocol, about what was expected of me. But I knew about love. I believed in love. I thought I was entering a marriage based on love. The night before our wedding, I found photographs of Camilla in Charles's diary. When I asked him about them, he said she was just an old friend. Don't be silly, Diana, he said. You're being paranoid. But I wasn't being paranoid. I was seeing the truth that everyone was hiding from me. I wanted to call off the wedding. I told my sisters I couldn't do it, but they said it was too late. My face was on commemorative plates. Millions of people were coming to watch. The dress was finished. The cake was made. How could I back out? So I didn't. I walked down that aisle at Street Paul's Cathedral. I said my vows. I smiled for the cameras. And I told myself that maybe I was wrong. Maybe Charles did love me. Maybe Camilla really was just an old friend. But on our honeymoon, Charles wore cufflinks Camilla had given him. He disappeared for hours to make phone calls. To her, I later learned, he was distant, cold, already regretting marrying me. And you knew before the wedding that Charles was in love with Camilla. You knew he'd wanted to marry her. You knew he was only marrying me because Camilla wasn't suitable. She'd been married before. She had a past. She didn't fit the fairy tale image the monarchy needed. You let him marry me anyway. You let your son marry a 19-year-old girl he didn't love because it was politically convenient. Because I was young and virginal and from the right family. Because I would produce airs and smile for photographs and play my role perfectly. Did you ever think about what that would do to me? Did you ever consider that I was a human being with feelings? Or was I just a broodmare? A vessel to produce the next generation of royals? The Queen set down the letter again. Her tea had gone cold. Her hands were no longer trembling. They were clenched into fists. But she kept reading. The first few years were hell. I developed bulimia within months of the wedding. I was throwing up 4, 5, 6 times a day. I lost weight rapidly. People said I looked wonderful. They didn't know I was dying inside. I tried to tell Charles. I said, I need help. I can't stop making myself sick. Something is wrong with me. He said, then stop doing it. It's disgusting. Control yourself. I tried to tell your staff. I went to the palace physician. He told me I was experiencing adjustment difficulties and prescribed sleeping pills. Sleeping pills. as if the problem was insomnia instead of a complete mental breakdown. I tried to tell you. Do you remember? Christmas 1982. I pulled you aside at Sandringham and said I was struggling, that I needed help. You said, Diana, we all have difficult moments. One must simply carry on. And then you changed the subject. So I carried on. I carried on through the bulimia, through the postnatal depression after William was born, through the suicide attempts that nobody talks about because they're too embarrassing for the family. Yes, suicide attempts. Plural. I threw myself down the stairs while pregnant with William. I cut my arms with a razor blade. I took an entire bottle of pills. Each time, Charles found me or the staff found me. Each time, the palace made sure no one outside the family knew. Each time, I was told to pull myself together, to think of the institution, to stop being so dramatic. Nobody asked why I was so desperate. Nobody wondered what could drive a young woman to try to end her own life. They just wanted me to stop causing problems. And through all of this, all of my suffering, all of my desperate attempts to be seen and heard and helped, Charles was with Camilla. Constantly. He would leave our house to visit her. He would call her from our bedroom while I was lying next to him. He would give her gifts that should have been mine. And you knew, and you allowed it. You probably encouraged it. Better that Charles have his mistress and stay in the marriage than risk a scandal by divorcing me. The Queen stood, walking to the window of her study. The December afternoon was gray and cold. She stared out at the palace gardens, remembering. She had known. Of course she'd known. Charles had been in love with Camilla since the early 1970s. Elizabeth had encouraged him to marry someone else, someone younger, more suitable, someone who could give the monarchy the image it needed. Diana had been perfect, young, beautiful, from a noble family, photogenic. The public loved her. The wedding had been a triumph.